Coming up in this episode of In Clear Focus,
AI is not sentient. It isn't creative, but it can turn creativity into a process.
You're listening to In Clear Focus, fresh perspectives on marketing and advertising, produced weekly by Big Eye, a strategy-led full-service creative agency growing brands for clients globally. Hello, I'm your host, Adrian Tennant, Chief Strategy Officer. Thank you for joining us. Since our first episode of 2023, we've been tracking the use of generative artificial intelligence-based tools and learning how brand marketers, strategists, creatives, and media planners are using them. We've heard how AI can support ideation and concepting, be used to streamline the production of creative assets, and improve marketing mix modeling, to name just a few use cases. A recent report from the management consulting firm McKinsey & Company illustrates the integration of AI in a growing number of productivity tools, including email, word processing, and presentation software. McKinsey's research suggests that by 2030, AI could automate 70% of business activities across nearly all professions, potentially injecting trillions of dollars into the global economy. McKinsey itself has developed a generative AI chatbot named Lily for its consultants to use, which reportedly reflects 40 curated knowledge sources and the content of over 100,000 documents. In a blog post about Lily, McKinsey describes the app as a researcher, a time saver, and an inspiration. When asked a question, Lily scans the firm's databases and identifies 5 to 7 relevant pieces of content, summarizes key points, includes links, and even identifies experts. Speaking recently at Demexco, Europe's leading digital marketing and tech conference, Gaurav Bayer, VP and GM of Google Ads Measurement, characterized AI as being at an inflection point. Using the AI in Google's Performance Max platform helped the German airline Lufthansa increase new bookings by 59%, while at the same time reducing the cost of acquisition. Bayer also told attendees, quote, "You're not competing against AI, you're competing against other marketers who are using AI. The sooner you start practicing and experimenting with AI, the greater the advantage you have over your competition." End quote. Industry publication Ad Age has identified several agencies that are assembling internal think tanks to discuss the AI space, inform how they address clients' needs and concerns, and help agency employees navigate new tools and business practices. In January, the Big Eye Book Club featured AI strategy for sales and marketing. While there are specific technologies included in the book, at its core is a practical framework for understanding how AI and machine learning can be harnessed for marketing and sales. The book's author is Katie King, the CEO of AI in Business, a UK-based firm specializing in AI consulting and training. With over 3 decades of experience, Katie has advised many of the world's leading brands and business leaders, including Sir Richard Branson and Virgin, telecoms companies O2 and Orange, and the consulting group Accenture. Katie is also a member of the UK government's all-party parliamentary group task force for the enterprise adoption of AI. She's delivered numerous TEDx talks and is a frequent commentator on BBC television and radio, as well as a sought-after keynote speaker. Today's episode of In Clear Focus is another chance to hear our discussion about the ideas in Katie's book. Katie, welcome to In Clear Focus.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Greetings from the UK.
Katie, first of all, could you tell us a little about your career and what led you to specialise in artificial intelligence?
With pleasure. I'm 56 as of last week, and I've spent the past 30 years in marketing, starting, as you would expect, in the late 80s, early 90s in a very traditional sort of environment. I've worked for big agencies, servicing some of the world's biggest brands like Virgin and many others. I started my own business, Zudicas, in 2010, a digital marketing company, and I've always felt that it's essential to be on this journey of continuous learning. I was ahead of the game with digital and did TEDx talks on that subject. And then around 2015, I thought, right, I've now moved out of London. I'm now over a certain age. I need some unique selling proposition to give me that edge. And I got involved in AI, wrote a white paper for a major organization, and it's gone from there. Since written 2 books on the subject and got heavily involved in the industry. So it was really a question of survival, staying ahead, trying to foresee what's coming down the line, doing my own research.
Well, as you know, for the Big I Book Club this month, we selected AI Strategy for Sales and Marketing, which came out at the beginning of 2022. But before that, in 2019, your first book, Using Artificial Intelligence in Marketing, was published by Kogan Page. Katie, what prompted you to write AI Strategy for Sales and Marketing so soon after your first book?
Well, as many of your listeners will probably know, AI moves very fast. There are new developments and innovations every day. So I wrote book 1 in 2018, published in 2019. But already as you're writing it and in that process of it being published, there are new case studies, there are new developments, new entrants into the market. So although the book was only a year old, it felt that a lot had moved on. It's still very current, especially my scorecard for success. But I felt that particularly the sector of PR, public relations, marketing, comms was late. So it hadn't yet come to the party. And I really did need to write another book. Book 1 opened lots of doors, but more and more vendors were coming onto the market. So I started writing book 2, and the conditions when I wrote book 2 were very, very different because we had the pandemic, and that was really reflecting the way the world was. I got started on it and we couldn't do all of the festive things, couldn't go out to the shops, couldn't see family, but we did have technology, and technology meant we could all remain connected. And so actually the digitization that happened during the worldwide pandemic accelerated people's interest and knowledge of AI, and I think actually helped quite a lot of the vendors to get on board. So that's really the main reason.
So, Katie, in brief, what can readers expect to learn from AI Strategy for Sales and Marketing?
Well, it's packed with very pragmatic, accessible case studies, lots of tech vendors, but also lots of the end user companies. It's rich across a number of different industry sectors. And where book 1 had the scorecard for success, which a lot of companies have gamified, in the second book, I also realized that people liked those pragmatic, how do I get started? So I came up with my standardized framework. It talks about what's the S? The S is the strategy, and the T is time. And then it sort of talks you through, how do I get started? Who are some of the vendors that I could talk to? What are some of the limitations, and is it affordable? So like book 1, very pragmatic, honest overview of what AI and machine learning are, how people can use them, how they're impacting particularly the business functions of sales, marketing, and CX across a number of different industry sectors.
In your book, you identify, of course, several benefits of using AI in business. Now, for folks involved in marketing and advertising, what are some ways AI is already being used to support marketing communications and sales functions?
Yeah, that's such a good question. That's what people want to know. How can we use this? So you've got many marketers using AI-powered tools so that they can craft their social media messages, their email marketing campaigns, their web copy. So on the sales side, it's helping organizations to come up with a pitch to a potential customer, to keep the pipeline of leads warm with prospects. There are tools like Encore and Phrasey, and it's saying to people, how do I tailor my message to a specific audience so that I can offer the best value proposition every time? So contrary to what people think of big shiny robot coming taking our jobs, this is mass personalization. So I like to talk about augmented intelligence. That's what AI can give us, whether we're in comms, PR, marketing, sales, CX. It's a series of tools that we need to invest in that can give us big data insights on all different aspects of what we do. And that might be analysis. It might be, like I say, lead generation or lead scoring. It could be brand watch, and it could actually be automating some of the more monotonous tasks that we do of creating reports and so on. But one of the keys is identifying trends and sentiment analysis and crunching data at volumes and speeds that our, albeit incredible, human brains can do, but maybe across multiple languages all over the world and so on. That's really the benefit at the moment of AI in the sectors that you mentioned.
We often talk about retail marketing on In Clear Focus, and you devote a chapter of your book to exploring how AI is reshaping retail and hospitality. In what kinds of ways are you seeing retailers using AI?
Retail's such an interesting place right now. I mean, pandemic changed a lot of our habits, but we haven't given up on our old ways. So we've got some retailers struggling with, are we going all in on digital, or are we holding on to some bricks and mortar? And so what we're doing is we're seeing AI applied in a hybrid manner. So physically, it might be delivering digital experiences to customers. They've come to expect that. And then it might be bringing something into the store, more of an omni-channel experience. So maybe the AI is part of the website for personalized product recommendations. And then maybe in the store, it could be a sensor. So you've got artificial intelligence, but then you've also got the Internet of Things. So these sensors could be used to track footfall, assessing which products customers are gravitating towards, so that we can offer them push messages and offers and so on. And then you've got smart mirrors and other kinds of areas. Even wastage, it might be a food retailer, and the AI might be really predicting with great accuracy how many people are going to dine in that store or purchase that amount of perishable goods. So really, really useful information that is making us as retailers greener and more able to offer our customers what they require.
Well, in the context of supermarket chains, many of whom now have their own retail media networks, do you foresee AI impacting food producers or CPG brands in some ways?
Most definitely. So I've got a whole section of book 2 that talks about how various grocery chains, particularly in the United States, how they've adopted AI, and food producers and CPG brands aren't any different. So one that springs to mind is Nestle. Nestle actually feature in book 2 and gave me a really good review of book 1. So I got to know them through that. And they're using AI across their business, from marketing to manufacturing to product development. So for organizations like that, for retailers like those, it's about AI helping develop better products, safer practices, as well as insights into what customers really, really want. And I think in the long run, what we're looking at here is a better, a more efficient supply chain, like I said a moment ago, less waste, and a better product offering. Now, all of this comes with the caveat of consent, that the consumer, the customer, needs to give consent to the usage of that data in order for the retailer to be able to give a much better experience.
What are some of the most common pain points or problems that motivate your clients to reach out to you? And have they changed during the years that you've been advocating the adoption of AI?
At the heart of everything is competitive advantage. I think that's the main one. The nature of that has changed, but that's really been the crux. We need to survive, we need to thrive, we want to be an innovator, or we are a laggard, and we need to kind of keep up. For many of them that are adopting it in this sort of earlier phase, then it is about a competitive edge. And many have found themselves having to do more with less, or facing new challenges and setbacks post the pandemic. So I think the pandemic made us less loyal and more likely to switch. And now we're going through difficult economic times globally. And the same is true there. People are shopping around for the best bargains and so on. So what the AI is doing is enabling us to satisfy existing client demand and understand the profile of that customer and help us find customers and clients like that. And I think, many struggle with where do we start? It's such a wild west out there of thousands of different vendors. Who do I turn to? So my advices are often around, how do I access it? Who do I turn to? What are some of the big macro issues to consider with that?
Your first book, Using Artificial Intelligence in Marketing, presented a framework for marketers to identify and apply opportunities to maximize their results with AI. Katie, you referenced it a moment ago, but I'm interested in how you've expanded on this idea in your second book.
It's really interesting because I speak a lot and I run training and do podcasts like this. And I keep going back to the scorecard because it's still super relevant, even though it was published in 2019. But I did produce for book 2 the standardized framework, which I touched on a moment ago. And I also included in the book other frameworks like the Rolls-Royce Elysia framework. So some might be highly complex projects and some might be a customer in all different industry sectors, an organization looking to get started with AI. So each chapter of the book has 10 tips, for how people can get started. And the whole premise of the book is these are case studies that are analyzed and we're giving you steps as to how you get started. So both of those 2 frameworks, plus the Elysia Rolls-Royce framework, plus lots of hints and tips is really how I advise and what the books focus on.
Let's take a short break. We'll be right back after this message. Each month, in partnership with our friends at Kogan Page, the Big Eye Book Club brings you interviews with authors who are shaping the future of marketing. Our featured book for September is From Marginal to Mainstream: Why Tomorrow's Brand Growth Will Come from the Fringes and How to Get There First. This groundbreaking book by Helen Edwards explores the often untapped potential of fringe consumer behaviours and shows how they can be a renewable source of innovation for brands. The book provides a practical framework for identifying non-obvious opportunities and applying qualitative and quantitative research-backed insights for sustainable brand growth. As an In Clear Focus listener, you can save 25% on a print or electronic version of this month's featured book using the exclusive promo code BIGEYE25. This code is valid for all Kogan Page titles, including pre-orders and their free paperback and ebook bundle offer. Shipping is always free to the US and UK when you order directly from Kogan Page, and it supports the authors as well. So, to order your copy of From Marginal to Mainstream, go to koganpage.com. Welcome back. You're listening to an encore of a conversation with Katie King, the CEO of the consulting firm AI in Business and the author of AI Strategy for Sales and Marketing, published by Kogan Page. Katie, your book includes case studies from organizations across a range of sectors, including Samsung, Rolls-Royce, Deloitte, and Hilton, to name a few. Is there one case in particular that you think would be especially relevant for brand marketers or folks working in advertising?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all of the case studies are compiled mostly from my own interviews, but also from my own research. I find really fascinating. Phrasey is a vendor, and the organization using their services is Dixon Warehouse, and the Nissan car manufacturing are really, really interesting case studies for marketers. So without delving deeply into them, what we're really looking at here with Phrasey and Dixon's is a case study of how AI is helping a brick and mortar business to get through the pandemic. And with Nissan, it's about allowing customers to be part of your business, which I think is really interesting for marketeers. So there's excellent case studies in chapter 3 that talk about how advertisers and brand marketers can benefit, like L'Oreal and Perfect Corp, who are really intriguing because they're demonstrating something really personal like beauty and how beauty can be shaped by technology. So they're the ones that I would really sort of pick out as some of the highlights for marketers.
And for folks who may be unfamiliar, could you just give us an idea of what Phrasey is?
Yes. So it's really a tool for identifying what is that sweet spot of marketing. How can we understand our customer and come up with some fantastic content and find out how that content is going to actually be served to that particular retailer, for example. So, what is the profile of the Dixon's customer? How can we create content that's really going to hit that sweet spot and make them really resonate with our particular offer and get better click-throughs and get better engagement with them?
Excellent. In Chapter 7 of AI Strategy for Sales and Marketing, you state that the new era of AI demands a more fitting economic model. Can you unpack that for us?
Yes, definitely. So, really what we're saying here is we need to adopt an economic model that doesn't just further the interests of the business, but has a positive impact on the world at large. So we're seeing a rise in corporate social responsibility and business for good, AI for good, and other types of initiatives. But the entire structure of our economic system needs to prioritize better outcomes for everybody involved. So I've been heavily involved with the all-party parliamentary group, which looks at adoption of AI. And we hear evidence from all over the world regularly about initiatives about that. And I also run my own program. It's all about the leaders of tomorrow in tech, and it's all pro bono, and it's looking at how young people in schools need to understand how AI is shaping the careers of tomorrow. So it's really about what are the ethical considerations of the way we collect data and the way that we use it. So it's making sure that this new economic model prioritizes not just what's best for businesses. And I'm really passionate about that. And I don't think this type of technology, that AI and machine learning, will really take off until we can reassure people that the frameworks and the regulation and the guidelines are all in place.
How should educational institutions, many of them here in the US facing declining numbers of students taking traditional courses, be thinking about their future in relation to AI?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about that subject, Adrian. Like I mentioned briefly, I have this program, Leaders of Tomorrow in Tech, and I have a whole chapter in book 2 all about AI in education, and some very frustrated commentators in the book, frustrated about how slow schools are, and particularly governments, the education departments of governments all around the world in some countries are too slow to respond. But of course, the schools have got to work within that national curriculum. So, it's finding opportunities if their governments are too slow and if the students aren't being taught what they need to prepare them for careers that are going to be reshaped by this kind of technology, then from an extracurricular point of view, guest speakers and so on, they need to be thinking about how is this technology being leveraged, because the technology can actually help the delivery of the actual training, and the training needs to teach them how is this technology going to reshape all of the things you're going to do in the workforce. So I think they need to try to influence their own education departments government-wise and give some pushback, but also fill the gap in the meantime so that they inspire their students and equip them with what they need going forward.
Since OpenAI's ChatGPT-3 was released in December, print and online publications covering marketing and advertising have been conjecturing whether or not AI will one day replace human creativity. Katie, what's your take? Do agency copywriters and art directors need to fear applications like ChatGPT or DALL-E?
Not fear it in terms of it's going to take away all of their jobs. But if they aren't using it, then they're going to get left behind quite quickly. So, of course, I've seen all the discourse on it. And yes, it's amazing what both can do, but they still are fairly limited. That's the reality. They operate within the parameters we give them. So ChatGPT, it can only write what you tell it to. And DALL-E can create what we tell it to create. So we, the creatives, we're required to come up with the ideas, to analyze them, to be the person that interacts with the client about it. So, AI is great at producing insights, following our lead, but it lacks that well-rounded knowledge to truly grasp what this information is about. How do we transform those insights into a strategy? Now, it's interesting when you think about creative strategy, AI is not sentient. It isn't creative, but it can turn creativity into a process. For example, IBM Watson working with Lexus, luxury car brands, and the AI studying many, many years of award-winning TV adverts, and then understanding what is it that makes it award-winning. Is it the setting? Is it the wording? Is it the people? Is it whatever it might be, the colors, the imagery? And it can then break all of that down and come up with an award-winning TV advert. So yes, we do need to be mindful of being left behind and not using these tools, and our competitors will, and others might turn to them as a result. So I think we have to get on board with it. We have to continue enjoying maybe more of the strategic aspects of what we do and leave the AI tools to do more of those analytical, data-driven tasks that we can then oversee. And I think it's a very exciting space to be in and not to be feared.
You and your team consult with businesses to help them develop AI strategies. Now, from a client's perspective, what does an engagement with your team look like?
Good question. So everyone's different. Every client's different. Their needs are different. Just to also clarify here, I'm not a technology company. I have AIinbusiness.co.uk, but I'm a management consultant. So I'm helping organizations. First of all, what is AI? How do you apply this technology in particular to your comms, to your marketing, to your sales? How do you implement the software? How do you oversee the AI project? So I help them with that, help them find vendors. But more often than not, again, being completely direct here and transparent, I'm helping them from the point of view of running training workshops on it, delivering keynotes on it, some consultancy on it as well. And often that is about their mindset. Maybe the management team or the board need to understand why this is so important in order to get on board with it, in order to free up some cash, in order to then let it escalate down the organization. Or it might be a marketing team training that team on how is it being deployed, who are some of the vendors that they need to go out there. So they tend to be the types of products and services. I've got an MBA and 30 years of experience in the tech sector, but I'm not teaching people how to code in AI and so on. There are many other very talented people who can do that.
You've enjoyed a successful career in what is still typically a male-dominated industry. Have you faced challenging situations as a woman working in tech?
Not necessarily. I know that women certainly, well, we are still outnumbered in the AI space, but I'm heavily involved with women in AI, and there's so many groups like STEMettes and Girls Who Code and Code First Girls. So there's loads of initiatives. And I've had the pleasure over the years to work with people like Maria Accente from PwC, Caroline Gorski from Rolls-Royce, and Professor Rose Luckin at University College London. And because of the nature of, my personality, I'm gregarious and confident and have self-esteem, and I'm really, really tenacious. If you're not like that, you could find it daunting to walk into a room of men or go to a conference very male dominated. And so I do think it's really, really important that we have programs that push girls forward in this space, like my Leaders of Tomorrow in Tech, like some of the other initiatives that I've mentioned. So I think it's important that we redress that balance and that we encourage girls into technology, and even in other sectors that they're going into, whether it's fashion or media or the law or construction, that they understand that still those industries are quite male dominated.
If there are any young women listening that have an interest in some of the topics we've been discussing today, what advice would you give them?
If you are of a technical nature, you love the sciences, the IT and so on, amazing. Go and learn to code, go and get involved in some of the more technical aspects of these technologies. But whatever your type of skill set, it's essential that you understand the impact that these technologies are going to make. And really what I'm coming to is more of a personal trait. Don't have imposter syndrome. Go out there and join LinkedIn. Ask to join LinkedIn groups. invest your own time in virtual and face-to-face networking groups. Ask for work experience. So it's that tenacity and that self-esteem, whatever your upbringing, whatever your financial means. There are so many free courses, like there's a fantastic free course on AI from the University of Helsinki, which isn't that technical and is for the non-techie people. So it's a mixture of that, get involved in this space and enjoy it and make sure that you're tenacious and you ask and you don't wait for it passively to come to you.
Katie, if In Clear Focus listeners would like to learn more about you and your consulting and training services, where can they find you?
The best place to go to is aiinbusiness.co.uk. That's my website, and that covers the books, the keynotes, the training, and so on. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. So Twitter is at Katie E. King, and Facebook and others are Katie King MBA. But go to the website, aiinbusiness.co.uk, and all of the digital links, social links are there. You can listen to the extracts from the book and from the book launch and so on. So yeah, please, I'd love to connect with many of your listeners.
And if you'd like a copy of Katie's book, AI Strategy for Sales and Marketing, you can save 25% on either a print or electronic version of Katie's book when you purchase directly from the publisher online at koganpage.com. Just add the promo code BIGI25 at the checkout. Katie, thank you very much for being our guest this week on In Clear Focus.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for a stimulating conversation. Yeah, fantastic.
Thanks again to my guest, Katie King, the CEO of the consulting firm AI in Business and the author of the book, AI Strategy for Sales and Marketing. As always, you'll find a transcript with links to the resources we discussed today on the In Clear Focus page at bigiagency.com. Just select podcast from the menu. And if you enjoyed this Encore episode, please consider following us wherever you listen to podcasts. We publish new episodes every Tuesday. Thank you for listening to In Clear Focus, produced by Big Eye. I've been your host, Adrian Tennant. Until next week, goodbye.